Andy, you released Eagles. Is that you, just as a solo artist?
Yeah, that's right. The Eagles song is my it's actually a song that I wrote when I was on tour with the Yardbirds. So, well, at least the foundation of the song. We were in Connecticut somewhere. I think it was a town called Norfolk, or Norfolk, as they say.
Yeah.
And we sort of arrived at this really dingy-looking motel, slightly scary Norman Bates-looking kind of motel.
Oh,
Nice.
And as soon as we got out of the van, there was this golden eagle that was flying overhead, and it was calling out. So I asked our tour manager, who is he knows quite a few Native Americans, and I said, "Is there anything in Native folklore about? Is it auspicious for an eagle to be calling out when you arrive somewhere?"
Right.
So we kind of researched it together and found out that there was a bit of a. I mean, it represents warrior spirit, and I suppose maybe being yourself and confidence, and so it was kind of a very a nice way to be greeted, to our first port of call on our tour. It's great, yeah. So I kind of wrote, the first verse as soon as I got my stuff to my room, and it just kind of developed from there, really. Yeah, and I was really, really pleased with how the song came out. I think it's certainly, I would say it's the strongest thing that I have written as far as being, melodic, catchy, a little bit punchy, groovy, all the boxes that I like to tick. Yeah, because what I found was I ended up doing a lot of acoustic gigs, and rather than with a band, and so that kind of coloured the way that I was approaching my songs, and obviously a lot of people do write on acoustic guitar anyway.
Sure.
But it kind of, so it meant that the material that came out of that bit of period of writing sort of merges the two sides, if you like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
was that an EP that you wrote, or a full album at that point?
I wrote 10 songs, but I decided that I noticed that a lot of people, even now, it seems to be you either release a single song or you release an EP.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who have got it down to a fine art, they will do an EP very regularly, which is kind of what I mean. Taking the Yardbirds as an example, I mean, a lot of bands from the 60s, that was the way that you did your release schedule. And it was kind of, you put a single out, and it was very much like that, rather than sort of, hey, here's my album. It was much more of a, not necessarily a slow build, because I know it was very frenetic for a lot of bands in the 60s. It was just sort of constant activity. If you think of Hendrix was always in the studio, and I think that was kind of quite typical of how it was happening back then.
For Your Love, that's pretty much the story with it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And both of it was For Your Love, but they were both written by Graham Gouldman, who was, later on in 10cc.
Right.
And again, that was kind of how it, that whole Tin Pan Alley sort of songwriting team thing, that was that's who they relied on to get their radio hits.
Right.
Yeah, it's quite a finely tuned process.
That's right.
Yeah. I think, nowadays, of course there are albums being released, but I think there is something to be said about doing regular releases, because it's in a way there's no rules really. I mean, obviously you have to still have the PR side of things in place, because otherwise your release gets lost.
Yeah.
I think that's quite refreshing because people can sort of fans can see the musical development from, you know, a few months down the line, you know, from from one release to another. And I think that's great. I think that's really healthy.
Yeah.